Hey guys, Nick Kringas here, and today I have a special video for you. I wanted to go through the Get in the Game Participant Workbook here and go over some of the key tools that are available to the Get in the Game participants to use, and some of the ones that I like the best. I kind of started here, but I'm going to go through this workbook pretty quickly, and I'll stop along the way and pick out some important topics to just kind of go over here. In the introduction, this shows you the game books that are available. The Great Game of Business is the what, the origin story of open book management. Change the Game is the why play the game, why behind the Great Game of Business, what they plan on achieving with the Great Game of Business across the world. Get in the Game is the how, exactly how to implement the game in your company. And a stake in the outcome is an ownership culture. This one is all about the stories of how the Great Game came to be. Jack Stack's story of buying SRC and turning it into an open book management company. And so that's the story behind basically Jack Stack and the journey that he went through with open book management and employee ownership, ESOPs. Let's go to, so this page here, the Venn diagram, this is how Jack Stack likes to implement or roll out the Great Game in any company. He doesn't go through the 10 steps. He just uses this diagram here, which is know and teach the rules, financial transparency and education, high involvement planning, the critical number, follow the action and keep score. That's keeping score with scoreboards, follow the action with huddles, and forward forecasting. And then provide a stake in the outcome. That's rewards and recognition, mini games and ownership. And they all kind of overlap here. And the middle point is the critical number. So it all goes around the critical number, and everybody is working towards that one critical number, that lead domino, if you will, that if you accomplish that, everything else in the business will be easier. Page 4 here are the 10 steps of implementation. This is how I was taught to implement the game in our agency. I use this straight out of the book, the Great Game book. Get in the Game book, rather. Step 1 is begin with the right leadership. Step 2 is share the why before the how. Step 3 is open the books and teach the numbers. Step 4 is focus on the critical number. Step 5 is act on the right drivers. Step 6 is create an early win with mini games. Step 7 is provide a stake in the outcome. Step 8 is keep score. Step 9 is follow the action huddles and forward forecasting. And step 10 is sustain with high involvement planning. I will say that we didn't do them in exactly this order. There were some times where we skipped around, but it is important to note that it's not going to work unless you do all 10 steps, especially the ones, they kind of build on each other. So if you don't have the right leadership, if you don't have the right why for doing it, then the rest really are not on solid footing. Over here, we have on page 7 of the workbook, we have the leadership start, stop, and keep exercise. So these are the traits of any great game leader, and the people that you want to get on your design team to create the game for your company have to have and possess these qualities. It allows each member of the design team to go through each of these 4 qualities and think about what they're going to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing to cultivate each of these qualities. Page 8 here is who's on your design team. So we have a design team assessment. So as you're putting together your design team, you want to go through and rate them from 1 to 5 on financial literacy, business literacy, leadership, and buy-in. Personally, I think that buy-in is the most important part of your leadership team. If they don't have buy-in, it's just so hard to get them on board, especially if that person is in a leadership position or if he's an owner of the company. If he doesn't have buy-in, like everyone else that is playing the game, the team members, the employees, they're not going to really have that buy-in either if from the top, the owner or leadership team doesn't have the buy-in. So I think that's the most important. That's one that I ran into when my partner was still around before we bought him out. He didn't have the buy-in for a few things, and I feel like they didn't go as well as they could have because he didn't have that buy-in. Here's a checklist for the begin with the right leadership. On page 13 of the workbook, we have the share the why before the how design. So this is really helps you and every member of the design team come up with their own why. And it's important to share the why at certain times within the process. So especially at the all team launch, after you're creating the game with the design team and then introducing it to the rest of the people in your company. That's usually how it goes unless the team is very small. Then these things can kind of be truncated down and happen a lot quicker. Typically in the all team launch is when each member of the design team is going to share their why and why they believe in the Great Game and why they think it's a good idea, why it's good for their people, why it's good for the company, why it'll be good for you. So this is the worksheet for that. This is the share the why before the how checklist on page 15. Page 19 is one of my favorites. This is when you're first opening the books and teaching the numbers, the dollar exercise can be really powerful because people don't know how hard it is to make a dollar within your company. They automatically and they already think that you're making a lot more money than you are. So the one objection to rolling out the Great Game is usually, I don't want people to know how much money we make or how much money I make, the owner says. It just knocks down that objection cold because people already think that you're making way more than you are. And if you don't tell them exactly how much you're making, they'll come up with their own stories about how much you're making. So the Walmart, for example, makes 2.4% profit as a profit of revenue, percent of revenue. The median of 212 different industries is 6.5% profit. Public opinion is 36% profit. So when we did this dollar exercise, what we did at the beginning was we asked everybody to, around the room, tell us how much they thought we made, how much out of every dollar, how many cents out of every dollar they thought that we kept. The answers were really across the board, kind of spread out. Some people said 2-3%. Some people said 40%, but the average that people thought was somewhere between 20 and 30%. So at the time, I think we were making about 12% or 10%. And a lot of companies, when they share this with them, like median companies here are 6.5%. So it's a shock to employees. And I've heard that people are like, why are you even doing this? They thought that the owner was making so much more money. So it's really enlightening, the dollar exercises. And that's here on page 19 of the workbook. Open the books checklist is on page 23. I'm going to start flying through these a little bit. Page 27 is the line of sight tool. The line of sight tool is once you open the books and teach the numbers, you want to get all of your people involved by filling out these surveys and asking them what they think the biggest obstacle or biggest challenge that the company faces is in each of these categories. So it'll be, and we like to start with people. It gets people into it when you start with people because that's what they know. They don't know the numbers until now. You just taught them the numbers. So it's a good idea to go in backwards order here and to get people's perspective on what the biggest issues are in all four of these, starting with people, operational, marketplace, and financial. The coach that I was shadowing actually did something cool. He did a SWOT analysis of each one of these. So he asked every person in the company to come up with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in each of these categories. Some of them don't really make sense, and it's hard for people to understand what you mean by, like, let's say an opportunity within your people or a strength or weakness in the marketplace, because that's technically not you. However, with a little imagination, those prompts for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in each one really come up. They really uncover some good answers there. So I thought that was a really good way to do it. The way that Kevin Walter, the GGOB coach that I'm shadowing, did it was awesome. I recommend it. So here down below, there's an example here. There's a checklist, and then there's a blank line of sight tool here on page 30. And so one thing that's not in here that I want to talk to you about is a really cool exercise is the sticky note exercise. I don't know if you've done this before, but once everybody has their answers for each of these areas, financial, marketplace, operational, people, you start with people first, and you write each of the responses on a sticky note, one per sticky note, and then you put them on the wall based on, and if you're doing this remote, there's other ways to do it. You can use the sticky notes on your desktop, and you can share your screen. You can use a Google Sheet and put them all in the same column. But basically the idea is to group together the ones that are very similar or the same so that you can see which ones are getting mentioned the most. And those are usually the biggest issues, or the ones that people think are the biggest issues, and the ones that you should tackle first. I'm not saying that each of, they might not be the critical number, because we're looking for the one number that everyone can kind of touch or impact, and the one that will have the biggest impact on your company. So if you were to solve for this one number or to improve this one number, it would have the greatest effect or impact on your company. That is the critical number. But these other numbers, they will make for great mini games. So your people are telling you what they think the biggest challenges are that the company is facing in all these different areas. So once you have the critical number, what you can do with the rest of those is you can run mini games or like small little challenges up to 90 days long to address some of those issues. So down here, this is the checklist for the critical number. Let me see here. Drivers. We'll get into the tools a little bit. I want to go into the drivers first just to explain drivers, and then I'll get right back to mini games and focusing on the issues that your people think are the most important to the company. But drivers are essentially lead measures, and success or results are lag measures. So a driver is an activity, a behavior, a cause, and a lag measure, is a critical number, an effect, a result, an outcome. So drivers are things that we can impact, that we can affect, that we can control. And lag measures, or the critical number, the results, the effects, are usually things that we can't control. There are things like, these are the examples here. So for a lead measure or a driver, it would be daily caloric intake. For a lag measure, it would be pounds lost. For a driver, it would be weekly scrap dollars, and a critical number or lag measure would be material cost reduction. So moving on here, these are the scoreboards. This is the worksheet that you can use to figure out the drivers for each role in your company or each department in your company. And each of these will be drivers along with a measure. And what it does, I hope you can see this, is once you have a critical number set and you have each of these departments and people within the departments focused on the right drivers that will hopefully impact the critical number, that now you have everyone in the company focused on the same thing and doing things that can impact the critical number day in and day out. They're focused on the right things, they're doing the right things, and they're not focused on things that don't have an impact or that they shouldn't be focused on. This right here is a fantastic tool. I've been using this for just about everything in our company, not just mini games. I thought it was so great if somebody comes to me and asks me what they should be focused on for the day. If you give them this tool, they can quickly determine and prioritize what they should be focused on based on effort and impact. I've also heard it called a value feasibility study, but this is just an easy way to do it. So those issues that we got from the line of sight tool, the sticky note exercise, we want to, with our team, ask them where would they fall on the effort impact map. So essentially, you're wanting to find the really low effort items that have the biggest impact on your critical number, on your company's success, and focus on those first. So this is a way to just prioritize activities, issues that you're going to solve, obstacles that you're going to knock out of the way, challenges that you're going to crush. So you want to have everyone involved in this and kind of either all in one in like a meeting, or asking them to assess each of their issues that they've come up with on their own, so that they feel heard and they understand why we are not going with, we're not going after what they think is the biggest issue that the company's facing. For example, like if somebody comes up with an initiative that they want to go after, but it's like a really high cost, high effort, and the impact is not very high, it's somewhere in the middle here, we can say to them, look, we're not going to focus on this, obviously, because it's down here in the bottom left quadrant. But if they feel really strongly about it, they can come back with data to show how it can be less effort or impact and less cost and higher impact. So they can make a case for their initiative, for the project that they want to pursue, and they can get it up into the top right quadrant if that's something that if they feel really strongly about. All right, let's keep moving on here. That's the effort impact map. And the way that the Great Game uses this tool specifically is to find the next mini game. So they want to find the lowest effort, highest impact activity or initiative to build a mini game around it for the next 90 days, so that select people, whoever can touch the mini game, whoever can impact the mini game, whoever can do things that will help you succeed in the mini game should be a part of the mini game. They should be players in the mini game. So with those people in the next, let's say 90 days, you can really rally around a cause with a game board, with a theme, just like we did. If you've seen the channel, if you've seen other videos that I've done, you've seen our latest Fishing for Clients mini game and how everybody is focused on sales appointments. And the scoreboard shows, like, every time we get an appointment, we put up a sticker of a fish. So the players of that game are rallying around that cause. And we want to create within our company a system, a marketing and sales system where we're getting leads and opportunities on a regular basis, so we never have to worry about it again. So I hope you can see how powerful that can be for a company to focus on one opportunity or challenge and to finally crush that, so that we create new habits and that's gone and out of our way forever, so that we can focus on the next one in the line in the next quarter. And now let's go to the mini game worksheet. This is how to create an effective mini game. I won't go through this now because I've done it in a different video, but this is just 10 steps to creating an effective mini game. You don't want to skip any of these steps because they are important. And if you miss any of them, that is usually a reason why mini games fail. We've had a couple in the past, the first 2 mini games that we had, they didn't go so well because we didn't take the time to really think through all 10 of these steps in this worksheet. The next one is on the next page is the stake in the outcome checklist. So if you're creating a stake in the outcome or a bonus plan based on a percentage of people's base salary. So for example, if after a certain threshold, a certain financial threshold, they hit a certain level of profit in a quarter, then every person in the company will get, if they're in tier 4, they'll get 4% added to the 4% of their base salary as a bonus. So that's a different topic for another day. We can go for an hour on stake in the outcome. And that's further down the line usually. You want to tell people about the stake in the outcome, but you don't want to roll it out until all of these other things are rolled out. One thing that I do roll out before the stake and the outcome even are these scoreboards. If we go to page 60 here, you'll see all the scoreboards that make up the great game, starting with the financial scoreboard. This is usually a P&L, some balance sheet items, a couple of KPIs from each department. Each department should then also have a scoreboard that shows the 6 to 12 different activities, drivers, some lag measures, but mostly drivers, things that they can control. You want to have them on a scoreboard as well so that each department then knows if they're winning or losing. And then down to the work group, if you have work groups below departments, and all the way down to an individual. So Sally's scorecard, and she'll have her own scorecard on things that she wants to track and be held accountable for. The next one here, let's keep moving. After keeping score is the forward forecasting, the great game huddle. So if we go to 72, it has a sample main huddle agenda. So that's there for you. And then if we go down to 74, we talk about the art of forecasting. One of the secret sauces of the great game, the thing that's kind of drives a lot of the results, is this art of forecasting. You're having each line on your scoreboard, on your financial scoreboard, owned by somebody, and then each week we're doing, people that play the great game are having each line item owner then forecast what that month will look like for their line item. So let's say someone owns revenue, all of revenue, or a certain type of revenue. Let's say they own revenue, and every week we're asking them, okay, what does February look like for revenue? And so at the beginning of the month, they're not going to have that much data, so it's going to be less accurate. But as time goes on, you're going to have data coming in, and every week the forecast is going to get more and more accurate. So we're forecasting ahead. We're not reporting for numbers that have already happened that we can't control or do anything about. We're forecasting for numbers ahead for the rest of the month. Okay, onward. On page 76 here, it has a checklist for huddles and forward forecasting. And then finally, the last thing here, which you don't get to until you've been playing the game for a little while, is sustain with high involvement planning. And there's a bunch of tools down here that you can use. So this workbook is just invaluable to someone that is rolling out the great game in their company. There's a ton of tools in here, like the line of sight tool, the sticky note tool, which is not in here, but it's how we get to the critical number, the practice assessment, the input survey, the financial analysis template. We also have the effort impact map that we went over. That's one of my favorites. The minigame worksheet will help you create an effective minigame, one that succeeds. And last but not least is the first thing on page 4 is the 10 steps of implementation. That I really have in front of me at all times, especially when I was first rolling out the great game of business, so I could just check off as I go down and implement the great game. It took a while for us to implement the great game. I think we started back in May of 2021 is when we first got introduced to the great game. I could be wrong, but it was about 6 months before we rolled out our first kind of practice huddle, which was about a year ago, last February. So it was about a year ago that we actually started practicing the great game with forward forecasting. We opened the books and taught the numbers by then. So it took a while, but now by the end of 2022, we saw some really good results, and we were pretty much playing the game at this point. There are some things that we're still doing. We're still rolling out and perfecting our scoreboards for departments. We were operating with only the company financial scoreboard for a long time and no departmental scoreboards. Not really. Some of them had it, like sales and marketing had one, but we're really solidifying that now. So anyway, that's the Get in the Game workbook. So when you become a great game practitioner, when you take any of the courses, you get this workbook. I'm not sure if it's available online. I'd be happy to give you a copy. And if you want to roll out the great game, I'd be happy to help you in any way that I can. So as always, remember, people support what they help create. This has been Nick Kringas, and thanks for watching.